Congresswoman just said, to make sure that all people in our country have a chance to live up to their potential, that all people are taken to the heights of what our great nation can offer, and that they are part of the diversity that makes us stronger, to be respected and lifted up. That is what we will do together. I want to thank Congressman Judy Chu for those very kind and stirring words, and her support in this campaign in the past mean the world to me. We had some excellent conversations about the agenda that the caucus she chairs in Congress is working on, and I was proud to pledge my support. And I want to thank all of the Asian American and Pacific Islander leaders, activists, volunteers, and organizers who are here today, supporting my campaign, who will be by my side as we go through the primary process, and then we bring home a big win in November of 2016. Now, there are so many elected officials here, which is a great sign of the importance of people registering to vote and voting, but also being willing to run for office. I want to acknowledge a few of them. Representative Sablin from the North Mariana Islands is with us. Norm Mineta, former Secretary of Transportation and founder of Chiang, California State Treasurer. Betty Yee, State Comptroller. Fiona Ma, Board of Equalizers. Irene Bueno, the AAPI Director in 2008, who worked so hard for me. Trong Ta, the founding chairman of the Vietnamese American Democratic Club. And it's exciting to see so many of you here in this town whose mayor is with us, Jason Pu, the mayor of San Gabriel. In addition to the members of my campaign team that Judy mentioned, I also want to recognize Dennis Chiang, who is our finance director, and we'll be having an event after this, and I'm very proud and grateful for all of you who are supporting that. This is especially meaningful for me for a personal reason, as well as the great outpouring of support that you are demonstrating. My late mother grew up in Alhambra. She didn't have a very easy childhood by any means. She was basically rejected by her parents when she was very young in Chicago, and with a younger sister, they were put on a train by themselves to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles to live with her paternal grandparents, who had a small house in Alhambra. And she went to high school there. But by the age of 14, it was clear that her grandparents didn't want her either. So she left that home and went to work as a maid in a home somewhere here in the area. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to whoever that family was, and here's why. The mother of the home recognized my mother wanted to go to high school. So she said to my mom, if you get up really early and you get your chores done, you can go to high school. And then you'll have to come back and finish all of them in the evening. Now that may sound harsh to some people, for a 14-year-old girl to be put into that position, but my mother was so grateful. The problem was that the home where she was working and living was some distance from Alhambra, a couple of miles. I'm not sure where. So she literally had to get those chores done and then run to high school. But she so much wanted an education. And she was so proud when so many years later, she actually went back to Alhambra High School to a reunion. It had to be the 70th reunion. There weren't many folks there, but she knew a lot of them, and they had such a great time, and the high school even gave her a role in the parade for homecoming. So when I think about this part of California, the first thing I think about is my mom, and how kind people were to her here when her own family was not. And I know how important family is to all of you. And that's how I see our country. I see us, when we're at our best, as lifting up families, helping families to be strong, helping families get the support they need to do the best they can for their children and for their parents. And I've said in this campaign, the stakes are very high. I want to be a president who deals with the economy to make sure it works for everybody, not just those at the top. I want to keep Americans safe and keep our country strong around the world. And I also want to do what I can as president to help deal with the problems that keep families up at night. Sometimes it's an illness. Sometimes it's a real risk with a job or a small business. Sometimes it's the difficulty of affording college. I know about a lot of these problems, and I hear from so many people across our country. So standing here today, it's really a great privilege to be launching this exciting part of my campaign in a place that my mother never forgot for the kindness that was shown to her and the chance she had eventually to graduate from high school. I was so proud to work with the AAPI community when I was a senator from New York. You know, America's ties to the Asia-Pacific region have always been important, but in the 21st century, they will be absolutely vital. I was very proud when my husband's administration launched the first ever White House initiative on Asian Americans. And I know there are some people here, very young people then, who actually worked in the White House, worked in the Clinton administration, helped to put that initiative into place. The focus was for the federal government to be more deliberate about understanding the challenges and helping all parts of the AAPI community succeed. And when I was Secretary of State for President Obama, and we launched the Pivot to Asia, we were sending a very strong message that we wanted to rebuild ties with our allies and reassert the United States as a Pacific power. So we have the groundwork here at home and around the world laid, but it's going to take a president working as your partner, standing with you, fighting for you every single day to make the kind of progress that we can make together. Now, I think of this story through the lives of so many people whom I've gotten to know over a lot of decades. One of them is Norm Mineta, who is with us today. Now, some of you know Norm as a dedicated public servant, an elected official, a cabinet secretary, in both a Democratic and Republican administration. But he also reminds us of an important lesson about our nation and what it takes to make it work for everyone. You see, when Norm was a child during World War II, he and his family were forcibly removed from their home and put into an internment camp. He was 10 years old, and he was a huge baseball fan. As he stood with his parents waiting for the train to take them away, a military police officer confiscated his possessions, including his most prized possession, his favorite baseball bat. That wasn't in some far-away country. That was here in the United States. Yet despite his own personal experience, Norm never stopped believing in the promise of America. And that's one of the reasons he was motivated to serve our country, to represent his neighbors, and to make a real difference on everything from infrastructure to protecting our oceans. I tell you this story, and I think if we had time, we could hear dozens and dozens of stories, personal stories about the journeys that brought you, your parents, your grandparents here to America. But I want to make a larger point. I disagree with the Republican frontrunner, Mr. Trump. You see, I think America is great because generations of hard-working Americans have made us great. Our values and our ideals have made us great. Now it is up to us to make sure we are even greater and we pass on the opportunities that have been made available to all of us, to our children and our grandchildren. This is a lesson we would never dare to forget. We are a country built by the hard work of generations of immigrants, and we are stronger because of our diversity and our openness. Now, I really wish that I didn't have to stand here today and say any of this, but we are hearing a lot of hateful rhetoric out on the campaign trail, calling immigrants drug dealers and rapists, using offensive terms to describe the citizen children of immigrants, saying we should bar all Muslims from entering our country. Republican candidates have said they would turn away widows and orphans and apply a religious test to people seeking asylum as refugees. They forget a fundamental lesson about our great country. Being an open and tolerant society does not make us vulnerable. It's at the core of our strength, of who we are as Americans. It's a creed as old as our founding. E pluribus unum, out of many, we are one. So we have a lot at stake in this election. Either we're going to defend the progress that we have made and build on it, or we are going to let a new Republican president rip it all away. Because make no mistake about it, what you're hearing from all of them is the same failed policies that led to the Great Recession. They want to slash taxes on the wealthy, put consumers at the mercy of drug companies, insurers, and polluters, let Wall Street write its own rules again. And we know, don't we, how that ends up. We have seen this happen before. Now, my friends on the other side of the aisle don't like it when I say this, but it's a fact. And I sometimes see them being quite evidence adverse. But, in fact, the economy works better when we have a Democratic president in fact, you are 4 times more likely to have a recession when you have a Republican in the White House. And just think back, if you can bear it, to how bad things were in 2008. You know, after that election, President-elect Obama called me, asked me to come see him in Chicago. I didn't know why. Turned out he wanted to ask me to be Secretary of State, but before we got to that, he said, you know, when it comes to the economy, it is so much worse than they told us. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month. the American auto industry was on the brink of total collapse. I don't think President Obama gets the credit he deserves for digging us out of the hole. To raise incomes for hardworking families. I want us to raise the minimum wage. Guarantee equal pay for women and protect workers' rights to organize and bargain. I want us to build 21st century infrastructure, our bridges, our roads, our tunnels, our ports, airports, transit systems. And we need to combat climate change, which the other party won't even think about. And the best way to do that is by investing in clean, renewable energy, which will do so much to lift up our economy. I want the United States to be the clean energy superpower of the 21st century. There are 3 candidate countries for that role: China, Germany, and us, and I want it to be us. I want us and our innovation and entrepreneurialism to make a difference. Now, California is already a leader, but there are other states that are doing more as well. I spent a lot of time, as you know, in Iowa. They get 1/3 of their electricity from wind. We can make investments like this across America. Now, I know we've got a lot of small business owners in this crowd today, right? I want to be the small business president. I want to make it easier for you to start small businesses, grow small businesses, get credit for your small businesses. And I especially want to reduce barriers to women and minority-owned small businesses. That's especially true for parents of young children. We've got to join the rest of the world by guaranteeing paid family leave. But it's also true for people who are taking care of their aging parents, isn't it? As a nation, we are not valuing and supporting family caregivers the way we should. So here's what I'm proposing: a new tax credit to help defray the costs for people taking care of an older relative. I want to expand Social Security so people who take time out from their careers, primarily women, to raise a child or care for a family member are not penalized when they go to collect their retirement checks. I also have a comprehensive plan to invest in research to prevent, effectively treat, and make possible a cure for Alzheimer's disease by 2025. How many of you know somebody with Alzheimer's? Yeah. Every crowd I'm in, how many hands go up? And you know, I know what a burden it is. It's an emotional and physical and financial burden. And people do it because they love their spouse or their parent or their grandparent. But it shouldn't be so hard, and we must invest more money in research. It is the 6th leading cause of death. And in the top 10 causes of death, it's the only one where we have no drugs to treat it, we don't know how to prevent it, and we can't figure out how to cure it. Under my administration, after having talked to scientists and researchers who are doing this cutting-edge work, we're going to make progress. And in 10 years, I know we will have a big impact on how to prevent, how to treat, and maybe find a cure for Alzheimer's. I also want to make college affordable again for As Judy said, I have proposed a new college compact that will let young people go to public colleges and universities without having to take out loans to pay tuition. And we're going to let you refinance your student debt. You can refinance your refinance your student debt and save thousands of dollars. And again, as Judy pointed out, we know our immigration system is broken. Millions of undocumented people are working and raising their families here, living in fear of seeing their families ripped apart. And there are millions of family members of lawful permanent residents and U.S. citizens who wait for years, sometimes decades, to have their families join them in America. We can do better than this. You know, we could add hundreds of billions of dollars to our gross domestic